Stop recording. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, and maybe like how it's different, maybe what its purpose is, and how it can be beneficial, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest question that people have, honestly, is they run into it with, and so I feel like it has to be addressed, even though it's a church thing, that they'll run into it like, should I do it with a pastor or should I do it with a counselor? Why would I do it with a counselor, not a pastor? That's a big one that I hear. And by the way, from even non-Christian couples, because they want to do their wedding at a church, and then the pastor's saying they have to do it, and so they're like, I don't really want to do that. But actually, it might be easier, check the box, to do it that versus whatever.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay. So maybe some some pros and cons, and I just don't want to spend too much time on that part of it.
I get it, but I don't think we should have to. I'm just saying that it has to be something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the pros and cons of premarital, of why you're going to do it. We could reference the Symbis.
That's a good one.
And then bring it back to which episode is he in?
Oh,
14 or something.
Yeah, that's true. Let's look. That's gonna be, wow, that was a long time ago.
Valerie listens to our podcast regular. Apparently, so does Summer. Oh, that's interesting.
25.
Okay. She was saying, oh my gosh, she just randomly texted me, Valerie did. Oh my gosh, you interviewed Les Barrett. Yes. And she goes to school in Kirkland.
We were hanging out at the beach by the pool the other week. Those are two separate instances, actually. The beach and the pool.
Two separate instances. As I think about it, those are two separate instances. Well, focus, I talked about the beach. Sorry, I'm just trying to download one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, man. We are recording.
Are we really?
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Yeah, let's...
You know what? Let's do a little testing, 1, 2, diggity. Testing. All right, let's see what we got here. Testing, 1, 2, diggity. You know what? This is not correct. This is supposed to be like turned sideways, actually, like this.
Oh yeah, I took that thing.
Yeah, it was like removed for some reason.
Yeah. I had to
stop this. Okay, let's try it again.
I tried to record a commercial. That's why.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing, testes.
Oh, that's better. Testing, 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Testes.
Oh, that's better. Testes. Nice, of course. All right, let's do this. Start and record. Hey everyone, welcome to the Shrink Think podcast. We are excited to be with you right now, as always, because we just love hanging out. We love doing our podcast, and we love having you along for the ride because, you know, you have no idea what's going to happen. That's the fun part.
We don't know.
We don't know what's going to happen.
How would you know if we don't know?
That's right. Welcome aboard. Today, we are going to be talking about premarital counseling. It's kind of one of those topics, I think, that people want to do premarital counseling, and it's important. Maybe some people know why, but it's kind of like, you do it, you check the box sort of a thing. And actually, and some people have, I think, more of an idea of like how it can be beneficial than others, but I feel like it's a little bit of this nebulous sort of a thing that's like, what is it, why, what's the point?
Well, yeah, what's
the
point?
Why don't you just like go to therapy later on when you have real problems?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's actually maybe why you should go to premarital counseling. So we're going to talk about that today. So Nathan, why don't you kick us off with, this is kind of your topic, brainchild, and tell us about what it is and why it's important.
It came up because this last week somebody was asking me. So it's a person I already work with, right? So, and this happens, now and then, where somebody that we're working with as clients will be doing their own thing, and then they're in a relationship, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just asked them to marry me, and then they're like, oh, do you do premarital counseling? Is that a thing? Should we do that? And like, first of all,
I know you. Yes, yes, you should. You've been here for several years. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, knowing you,
Right.
yeah. But well, first of all, one of the things that we talked about probably in a previous episode with couples therapy, I wouldn't just switch over to do premarital counseling if you were my individual client for like all this time, because your new partner would not feel safe with me. That would be weird. They'd
Yeah,
feel
there's an imbalance there.
So anyway, but then we got into a conversation and I realized we have never done a podcast on, and it's like kind of this entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, let me just say, it's funny that we haven't also, because there's a section on our Shrink Think modules that are orienting couples to counseling that does talk about premarital counseling. So it's kind of funny that we talk about it on our Shrink Think educational videos, but we don't have an episode on it. So
yeah, it's
welcome.
Definitely weird. Well, so premarital counseling, first of all, in some ways is more of a product, like a direct product. So like you are getting kind of a package. Churches do it with pastors will do it, but typically when it's done, it is like a system that you go through. So what we do here is it's an 8-session deal. It's a fixed cost, and there's an assessment that's involved. And their idea is premarital counseling is not really trying to counsel you in the sense of make this major change. It's really insight building and insight awareness. And right or wrong, what I tell people is what I told this last premarital, this is actually a while ago. I said, my goal is really to break you up. Because if we can break you up now, I'm saving you all kinds of heartache.
Right.
Because it will be inevitable. I'm not trying to don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tear them down.
Right.
Do you realize what kind of a jerk he is?
Yeah.
Break the wrist, walk away.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You think I got where I am by dressing like Peter Pan here? Think again.
See, I told you, we don't know where we're going. So, but there's different assessments out there. There's the Prepare and Rich is kind of the thing that's been around forever. Mm-hmm. And then the Les Parrott, and was it Les and Leslie Parrott that came up with it? And just them, where they... Yeah.
And then it was like, I think it was bought, or maybe they bought the Prepare and Rich, but they're two separate things.
From the Symbis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Symbis, the Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts.
Okay. So those are kind of the big ones out there. So what that would entail is if you were looking to get premarital counseling, your decision really is going to be, who do you go with? Sometimes the venue, like if you're going to get married in a church, the church will some churches will demand that you get premarital counseling. Some will want you to do it with the staff that's there at the church. And some don't care. They just want to make sure that you did it.
Which means that it's either going to happen like on location at the church, maybe with that pastor or priest, or it'll happen with one of the other staff members, or it'll be outsourced to potentially a counselor.
Right. And so, but the part of the thing is that there's a wide range then when you get into that piece, because if you're meeting with a pastor, for example, it's pretty normal that one of two things will happen. Either you will have the system that they want, like the Prepare and Rich or the Symbis, and they'll use that and they'll just kind of go through it, or they will not. It won't,
So what you're saying is either we will go or we won't go. There's no kind of going in between. Yes. No. Either you'll be alive or you'll be dead.
Well, I guess my point of saying it that way is they're either going to have a specific thing that they do, or it's going to be kind of all over the place, quite frankly.
Yeah, sort of like they're just asking questions, probing. Maybe they have some of the things that they focus on, that they think about, that they've known or worked on with couples. That's sort of their own thing, but it's not really a program or a system like the Symbis or the Prepare and Rich.
Right. And we actually interviewed Les Parrott on episode 25. You want to go back and listen to that?
A very long time ago.
I mean, this is like, what are we on now? Episode
My
170?
voice was so high back then. I was like, "Hey guys, welcome to the Shrink Thing podcast." Now I'm like older and more established because I'm.
And our voices sound romantic.
Because no, I wouldn't go there necessarily.
Come on.
You went weird with it. But
love me. Sorry.
But yeah, we did.
We're talking about Premarital.
That's true. Oh, that's no. We did interview Les Parrott, and the Symbis is the Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts program that we use as group practice owners. And I think you did before. I used the Prepare and Enrich before it. I liked it. I think they're both good. The Symbis was like this more modern, updated thing. I think the Prepare and Enrich might have gotten a facelift and an update. But let me just say briefly, it's a great tool. It's got a fixed cost. I think it's like $30 or $40 or something per person, maybe per couple. I think it's per person.
Well, the Prepare I feel like was $100 for the
whole
couple.
thing, yeah.
And then the Symbis, it's been a while. I don't know if there's been a price update.
Yeah. So anyway, it's got a cost like that, right? So then each person of the couple takes it separately, and you need to like go into separate rooms and not talk about your answers, right? Because these are like asking you about yourself, your family, your beliefs, all that kind of stuff. And what it does is it spits out this report that your counselor or the pastor or priest receives, and then they walk you through it. And it's got like several categories or components to it that are important for relationships that you can actually then walk through. And the cool thing about a tool like this, I think that is really, really helpful, is that, and I always sell it this way, you can spend many sessions talking about different subjects and sort of perusing or exploring possible subjects, and then how you feel about them, or tell me about those kinds of things. Or you can take this test that might, or this assessment that asks the questions outside of the session and then gives you a cohesive response so that you can then compare your answers and then have more specific areas to focus on and talk about. So the point of all that is it will cut down a lot of time and hone in on some of the specific points of agreement or disagreement that need to get discussed.
Right. So one of the things that you are deciding is, do you want to have a clean and clear beginning and end to your premarital counseling experience, like a beginning and an end? So you're going to have this many sessions and you know that up front. Or do you just kind of want to come in and basically you're kind of starting a couples counseling relationship that just could be long term, which is another option that people do if they just want to get started, look at some stuff, see some things, and then go from there. My thing though is that if you there's some things that you really need to consider that you actually are assuming. You don't know you're doing it, but it's happening.
And are you saying they need to consider those before they get married?
Yes.
That's kind of a big deal.
Well, and they think, people generally think that they have, because you're getting married because you ultimately have a bunch of things in common, which then assumptions will happen. And the same thing it's funny because it happens with clients. People come in and we don't share necessarily everything, obviously, in our personal lives.
Oh, should we not be? Because that's how I spend my sessions.
You're doing it.
Sorry,
doing it wrong.
If you're one of my clients out there, I'm sorry. I'll make the change right now this week. I will no longer talk about myself. Thanks for coming all these years to my own personal therapy.
Yeah. Oh my good God. Okay, so.
Don't do that.
But where I was going with that is people will often assume that I believe the same way they do about everything, whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter, religion, politics, all of it. So like finances, like how do you spend it? What are you, a spender or are you a saver? Oh yeah, I can tell you that. He's more of a saver and I'm more of a spender. Okay, well, how does that look on an average daily basis? How are you going to organize the finances moving forward? Do you have one account? Do you have separate accounts at all? Do you only have one? And so stuff like that. What you think about sex, regardless of where you're at with it, because that stuff changes over time in the longevity of the relationship. mood, personality. I'm missing some. Are you
From the Symbis?
you're from the Symbis, yeah, or prepared?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like family of origin, like roles. What are the roles each of you want to take or you believe that you should take? And it actually has a list of like duties or responsibilities, like taking out the trash or doing the dishes or making meals or handling finances or like things like them, making big decisions or whatever. And I think you can mark those down as it's my responsibility, the other person's responsibility, or it's both, or like a shared kind of a thing. And then you can look at those answers, and I like them. They're like side by side, and you can see it's interesting if one person says, that's my responsibility, the other one's like, that's my responsibility. It's like, let's talk about this, right? Or if they're both pointing the finger, it's your responsibility.
Yeah, this is not going to happen.
Right. So,
you guys are actually not going to do this.
So you need to hire a person to come in and take out your trash for you.
Right.
Because neither of you is going to do it.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too, is that the Symbis does is it basically works to take both of your answers and then kind of say, hey, here's some areas that you need to consider, right? Because these are areas that you don't agree on one way or another, and then it kind of ranks them, so to speak. Rank is not the right word, but it helps the counselor, I guess is my point, to focus. So when the counselor gets this information, we can kind of quickly look at it and go, oh, okay, so these are this is where we need to go in these, for us, like 8 sessions.
Yeah, potential problem areas or things with, and also strengths as well. I mean, it does highlight strengths, which are good for couples to know, but not just to go and be like, oh, we're so in love, or we have a lot in common, or we like get along well, but also like here are some specific reasons why, or here are some specific answers or explanations for why we get along so well. So I think that can help give confidence to couples as well.
Right.
So let's
lean on the strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of leads me into like, okay, so why would we do this at all? What's the whole point of going into it, right? This would be, we as counselors want your relationship to succeed. Obviously, we don't.
Except for me, from my side.
Yeah, except Nathan. So don't see him if you're wanting to say the other. But we as counselors, we don't love working through conflict and hard things and, dealing with couples that want to break up or divorce. That's not fun for us to do. It's heartbreaking, right? We want you as couples to succeed. We want you to be happy, and we want to give you the tools and the insight so that you can do that. And premarital counseling is sort of like, and I've heard it said like this recently, that every relationship is going to go through some sort of stress testing. It'll be great for a while, sort of this honeymoon phase, first year or two, and then things start kind of getting real, and you're like, okay, like the veil is off, and I can start to see a little bit more clearly, and like sober up a little bit, and you're like, oh, that's what you look like. It's kind of like the reality hits, and you're like, we've got these real issues that are sticking points or conflicts that we have to work through and overcome. And so premarital counseling can help you to see those things from the beginning, what those areas maybe are or could be, so that when the stress testing comes, rather than something fracturing or breaking or tearing in the relationship, you can begin to see that it's happening, and you've got the tools to repair it, because repair is such a key to relationships lasting. It's how effective and how well you are at being able to repair that will kind of determine the longevity of your relationship. You can go through a lot of things, but if you can repair well, then you're still kind of together, you're cohesive, and that's what we want. We want to highlight these areas or help you to see these ways and areas in which of your life, but also within yourselves, that you might be causing or creating these fractions or these tears. And then here's what we can do to repair those so that your relationship can last in the long run.
And in the beginning, to speak back to what I was saying earlier, there's like part of the assessment that gets used goes over kind of what I would call like rose-colored glasses. So it's this idea that if one of you is actually looking at the marriage, the potential, the coming marriage with like these rose-colored glasses, like it's all going to be better after we get married.
Right. Or everything's fine right now. It's so great. They don't have any flaws.
Yeah, we're so much the same. Then it's good for you to find out that your partner does think that way before you get married. And then you have all of these problems.
Because they will find out. The rose-colored glasses one day will come off. They'll wake up in the morning, right? Those rose-colored glasses will be on the nightstand, and they will see you without those rose-colored glasses, and they'll be like, what? Who are you? What is
You
this?
scared me. Yeah. So here's a tiny story about this. It's kind of funny, and it depicts what we're talking about.
Can we say it once upon a time? Once upon a time.
Can we do that? I will in a second.
Okay.
I will in a second.
When you get there.
So yeah, there's common relationship development. There's a structure for how all relationships, including, every single person that you actually have in your life, you've done this. You get together and you go through this honeymoon phase, and then you slowly learn to own your own stuff and be who you are in the context of the relationship. I'm not going to go through the stages, but that's what happens. So, once upon a time, we start our story where Nathan, that's me, was working with this couple, and they were telling me they were so the same. Everything was so wonderful. And
oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
And so I'm like, okay, so what do you guys like to do for hobbies? Oh, you know what a weird thing is we both actually like to sew. I'm like, oh really? So
and we both like to skip holding hands.
Skip holding hands. We like to skip. It doesn't matter. We held hands and then we skipped it. I'm just kidding. So, come to find out, the lady happened to be a seamstress. So she literally was making her wedding dress from scratch and all of her bridesmaids' wedding dresses. And it turns out the more we ask questions, the sewing thing is actually a pretty major part of her life. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you do, talking to the dude, for sewing? He had cross-stitched something in 6th grade and remembered enjoying it. That was it.
That's enough to build a relationship right there. Because that one small cross-stitch could grow into a quilt.
Yeah.
A love quilt.
If he had been working on it since 6th grade.
Right, that's true. So, maybe now he was just waiting for the right person to spark that passion in him that's been dormant.
Yeah, so the point, I guess, is, you can probably see this as I'm talking about it. You can't build a relationship on that. He was nervous to be different. Like, he wanted to be connected in every way, or he was nervous of like, oh no, what do we have, or whatever.
And there's this saying out there that's like, in a relationship, if the two of you are the same, then one of you is irrelevant.
Boom. Mic drop. So that's why you go over. That's partially why. That's one of the things that comes up, and you want to find that out ahead of time. It was interesting because when he said that, she kind of slowly looked at him like, okay, that's kind of ridiculous type of a thing, and he was like, what? It's fine, but again, that's one of those things that comes up in premarital counseling, and there is, I would say this to you, if you are a person who has been pretty well patterned and you have done the thing in your mind where you're like, I don't know why I always get the same person, and and things go wrong the same way, but you have found somebody that you are convinced is different, I would suggest that you go and do premarital counseling to just make sure of that.
And to look for those patterns, to look for those themes or those trends that you have found in yourself, or those qualities in the other person that you tend to attract and be attracted to, and then to see how you are responding to those, and are you responding to those things differently now than you have in your past.
The other thing is, oftentimes you're getting ready for a wedding when you're doing this. There's a lot of money going out. Mm-hmm. So some of what you are trying to do is not spend money.
Right.
And which is why oftentimes people just go, I'm just going to go with the pastor, because it's way cheaper usually.
Or can we just do 4 sessions?
Yeah, let's just cut this in half. But I would tell you this, make your decisions however you want. But if you know there's some mental health history with either you or your partner, you're going to want to be with a professional. You're not going to want to well, this will work, it's cheaper. Don't do that. Right. Go with somebody that actually can see the other things and go through it with you. So, with that said, you have anything else to add there, Big A?
No, I think just, reiterating that we want your relationships to work out, and as we're looking at these things, these patterns that are going on, or these, whatever, the compatibility, maybe, if you will, of this relationship, we want you to succeed, but we also want to stress test it and see if there are things that are, bad or whatever, that we want to highlight those and find those early on so that you can address them and take care of them. Or if they're like deal breakers, that we can help you to see those so that you can prevent things, right? That's the whole idea of premarital counseling, is prevention. We want to prevent all these problems later on down the road when they're much bigger.
So in conclusion, go to shrinkthink.com/swag shop and buy a shirt that states all your opinions.
Or buy the shirt that says you are the biggest problem in your own life.
Yeah. Have a great day.
That's awesome. That's good. I enjoyed that.
Sweet.
Yeah, I feel like we had, I don't know what happened to this camera. But
which camera is it?
this one right here. No, that's not. No, it's this one. Yeah, something happened. It died. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if it's like the connection. I don't know.
Like maybe the connection on the. What if it's the connection on the back?
Yeah, it could be. But
okay.
I was trying to keep track of it though, and it wasn't like switching to the black screen, so that's good. I hate when there's just like a black screen and it's like
the figures. It was red lighting me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for a little while anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe as I think about it, it didn't after a while. Okay,
Cool.
we need to get out of